What's going on, Motorsports fans? This is Jared here with the Bearded Garagistas. Always with me is my brother Brett. He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
How you doing?
And today we are really excited to have Ken Behr back on the show.
He's back.
He's back. He's back. Third time for Ken. Definitely our most frequent guest. But we really enjoy having you because when we get into these larger shows, and we assume that this is going to be a larger show, we really like to bounce these ideas off you when they start talking about contract talks and money and where things are going, and from the driver's perspective of somebody who's been in the game, try to understand like why people make the choices they make, kind of things like that. But first, I really wanted to go over pretty much something that just seemed to, it was rumors at the end of 2020 that this was going to happen, but it seems like it has taken off in 2021 here, and it is a final decision, and everybody's been talking about it now, and Twitter is literally in an uproar, and that's NBC Sports Network going away at the end of 2021. So right now, my first thing that I read was they're switching everything and it's going to Peacock, which is NBC's new streaming service. At first, I was like, oh, great, another streaming service I got to pay for. And that's pretty much what Twitter has seemed to say about it as well. Everyone on Twitter is like, this is BS. NBC's going into the garbage, which they're not. Every other CBS, all the other ABC, they all have their own streaming networks. So NBC was going to get on the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
It's just personally, I miss just having, I never thought I'd say this, but I miss having commercials on network TV and just like paying one bill, which I didn't pay the bill at the time. My mom probably did, but paying you probably paid bills. But
I remember you had to get up and actually turn the channel.
Ooh,
there was
right.
no cable, you know.
But my thing is like I miss like just being able to like turn the TV on. You don't have to worry about streaming service, and I enjoy streaming services, and I have streaming services, but it's really starting to kill me. Like I like everything. You have to have a different streaming service. You have to have a different app, and everybody wants their own money.
Right.
And then by the time
a password for each one, if it starts to become
by the time you're
password
like
one,
right. By the time you're ready to really do anything, like it's in my opinion, it's just getting out of hand with these streaming services. And
but
Netflix
it's the future. It's not going to change anytime soon.
Netflix
That's
is
the
the worst
future.
one, bro.
So
Netflix started it all.
$20 a month now. It's up to, I think.
But Netflix showed the entire world that people were willing to pay monthly amounts for service, and then the rest of the world is just following along.
So let's take a walk back in time.
Okay,
when you were little kids.
We're gonna get to motorsports soon.
No,
Go ahead.
Let's talk about this. When Netflix used to actually be something they mailed you in the mail, and you didn't have a stream. And back in the day when they started talking about all this, so as a racing fan, as a racer, I had this vision. Oh man, this is going to be great. There's going to be like 70 cameras placed around the track, which is at Indy, but not at every race, right? And you could be able to log on and go to your computer and pick a camera, and it could be anything from the SCCA is going to, there's going to be this whole ability for a small fee and a little bit of your time. You can be totally immersed in the race.
Right.
And guess what? That didn't happen.
No.
All you got was the Kentucky Fried Chicken version, where they battered it, fried it, threw it on a greasy plate, and this is what you're paying for now.
Right. You could have gotten a lot for what they're doing and the technology they have.
If you thought you could log on and you could see every camera and the telemetry and hear the drivers talking to their pits, and you could be fully immersed in the race, buddy, charge me.
I think greed stopped that, right?
Well,
If you put, think about it this way: if you had one application or one media service that had Formula One, IMSA, all the main stars,
and all of that,
you can go on. You could log on to that. You could pay monthly there, and you could watch everything on there. Would blow up. But everybody wants their slice of the pie, and that's never going to happen.
How about this? My son has this new race simulator, which he's pretty good at. I suck at, but I mean. But it's it's the kind that clips. It's not a fully immersible. If you ever watch the guys, there's guys that actually wear Art & Senna's suit. Yeah. And they have the whole race simulator.
The gloves and stuff.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I didn't want to wear it at the track. I didn't want to wear it in the house,
Well, there's air conditioning at the house.
Right. And he's got all the pedals are all set up to have the same hydraulics as a car. It's not just fly-by-wire. They have the hydraulic pedals and everything.
Right.
So think about this. You have your setup, and now you can put what we just talked about on the screen. You can be in the race while it's happening, picking camera views, literally racing and pitting. You could literally bring the fan in.
Have you ever watched esports racing series? it's and it's amazing to watch. I wouldn't say it's always the most entertaining. However, the camera angles that they can get are just phenomenal, and you wish that they would be able to replicate it in real life. And of course, they can't. But
Right.
I mean, talking about cameras all over the place, that's what these e-races
Right.
allow you to do.
Right. If there was a way to meld, I guess I just, if there was a way to meld e-racing with a really true electronic connection to the track through video, audio, and everything else, then maybe
one day we'll
you know
probably
what I was thinking is like,
well, that's what we thought it was going to be when
Back
this
when
all,
you were-
20 years, 10, 15 years ago.
in the United States, what we're accustomed to is
White bread?
racing.
I'm just kidding.
is these racing series, they have these TV contracts, and NBC comes out, NBC shoots it, or Fox comes out and Fox shoots it, right? And it's Fox announcers, NBC announcers. Now, what Formula One does is, yes, they have the contracts with Sky, for instance, for their English coverage. However, the cameras and all the production is Formula One operated.
Right.
They own all that video. They have total control. Now, back in the day, if you watched those old races, it actually was each country they went to handled the TV production.
I thought they did that
Formula
still.
One. Nope.
I didn't know
Formula
that.
One has complete control
They
over
they
the
might
cameras.
rent cameras, and who knows? Maybe they fly the cars and all the teams over there. They fly their
They
fly their whole.
It is the Formula One camera crew. They
Wow, that
own it.
controls
They
every
shoot
shot.
it. When we say
they're one
when
of the
we're
only
sitting
ones
there
that
saying
chase you down for using any of their clips. It's
But
every
ridiculous.
single TV provider that or all right, let's use Sky as the example, okay? When you're watching what Sky is watching, every single channel around the world that's showing Formula One is showing you exactly the same
Right.
thing, because Formula One is showing it to you, and then it's just the different voices over the top.
the different voice for
But it's
Yeah.
the same across the board. There's
Good
no Sky has this and Sky Italy has this and Channel 4 has that. It's the same for every single country, every single channel. That's Formula One. Now, should IndyCar invest in doing something similar and not having to deal with what Fox or NBC is doing?
Well, they're just contracted. They contracted out. Listen, when you go to the racetrack, when you go to like a Miami Grand Prix or something like that, the people that are running the racetrack back in the day, that wasn't even the guy. If Ralph Sanchez was putting on the race, they bring another company in, like a Penske company or another company, and they bring in they organize the corner workers. They bring in all the radios. They bring in the stewards. Everything comes from an outside company. All Ralph Sanchez did was say, "This is my track, and I'm going to build this track." And
Right.
all that stuff. I had friends of mine that would be coming in town. Well, I'm working for this subcontractor or that subcontractor. So they didn't even have their own people on the track. The Indy cars or the GTP cars back in Miami Grand Prix days were just showing up with their teams. It wasn't even the promoter's job.
Yeah.
Now there's multiple. Look what's happened since then. There's kind of been a consolidation in racing business, right? All of a sudden, Penske owns Indy. He owns this track. International Speedway Corp owns this track, and this
Right.
track. And so now they can probably do it economy of scale.
I think it's
but
because
a guy like Sanchez or maybe whoever's doing the Long Beach Grand Prix, something like that, some other tracks.
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to the old races, you hear all the time, "Oh, the local TV director cut away,"
Yeah,
or "Let's see if the local TV
We'll come
director
back with it.
will come with this and show us
Dude,
this." Where that's not
But
the
Formula
case
One
anymore.
still does that occasionally, don't they?
Bro,
I
listen,
think no,
almost had a
that's what I'm saying. I think Formula One learned from that, and now Formula One does it all themselves.
Yeah.
I almost had a brain aneurysm last night because the Rangers and the Penguins went to a shootout, and MSG, their own channel, switched them off the shootout and put the Knicks on at the start of the game and put them on MSG Plus to make you change channel. I'm like, dude, a shootout's going to take 5 minutes. You couldn't leave it on there for going.
Well, you know
Nope,
the story
contract,
behind.
man.
You remember the story behind the Heidi Bowl, right?
No.
Oh, Google that. Heidi Bowl. I think it was a playoff game or the Super Bowl, and it was like 2 minutes left, and this is back in the 50s, and Heidi was coming on. So right at the teams on the 2-yard line, they're gonna and
it in.
they switch it to Heidi, And like everyone's like, what? Well, we had a contract. Heidi comes on at 9 it is.
Man.
That's
It's all about contracts.
Well, let's get back to
course.
what's going to happen with NBCSN, because I did do a little bit of research. I was really pissed off because I didn't want to have to pay for Peacock to watch. IndyCar is exclusively on NBC. NASCAR is exclusively on NBC, and IMSA also runs NBCSN. And if you've gotten accustomed to just flipping on NBCSN, whether it be through the app or whether it be, on your cable, you would flip it on waiting to see that race and they wouldn't be there. So what they're doing now is...
That's the only reason I had cable, basically. Well, was for NBC, just so I could watch racing.
So here's what they're doing now. They're transferring everything, NASCAR and some of IMSA, I believe, they're going to... USA Network, which is still owned by NBC, the parent company. Right. So they're moving everything from there to USA Network. And I don't know if this is the reason, but I heard rumors of numbers floating around that NBC Sports Network only goes to about 79 million households, and USA Network goes to about 90 million. So yes, they're getting a more widespread, but if you're on USA Network, you have never been watching racing. You might have been watching like WWE wrestling, but you weren't a motorsports fan. So I'm not sure what that demographic means to them, but they're moving the racing to USA. So if you go log on and you're looking for a NASCAR race, or you're looking for an IndyCar or even an IMSA race, check USA Network, because it may have switched to there. The other thing that it may have done is switch to Peacock. Now, I did some research into Peacock, because once I found that out, I was like, well, shit, what the hell's about to happen here? Right. You can get Peacock for free, but it only has about 2/3 of what they offer. Still thousands of shows and channels and things like that, and movies, but it's only about 2/3 of what they offer. Then they offer, and that's the free plan. Then they offer a $5 a month plan that gives you premium unlimited everything, except it has commercials still. So you're paying $5 a month and they're still giving you commercials.
It's paying to wear the t-shirt that says the guy's name.
Unfucking believable. Now, I do hear that the commercials aren't too bad. Like if you watch a movie, they'll jam all 3 minutes of commercials right in the beginning so you can watch the entire movie. Not too bad. But still, if there's commercials, why the fuck am I paying for $5 a month? Yeah. Then you can pay $10 a month and you have premium, no commercials, and you're good to go. But still, that's another $10 a month on top of the Netflix that I need to keep at $20 a month on top of whatever Amazon Prime.
My cable bill's like $250 now. I mean, and my first house was only $660 a month. My cable bill's almost $300. I could get a small 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a little quiet neighborhood for that a couple years ago.
So that's what's going on with that. So, not too bad. I really wish that they would condense it a little bit more, but it is what it is. So that getting out of the way, let's get back into talking actual racing, motorsports. I know, and we didn't really even give you guys an intro, but we're going to go over, we got a couple of miscellaneous questions, some Formula One topics, Eddie Jordan popping up again, Helmut Marko opening his mouth again. We're going to talk the Hamilton contract and what he wants and why it hasn't gone through. We're going to talk a little bit
the rumors
of why it
we don't know exactly.
We don't know what's going on.
I don't think it's money.
We'll get there.
Oh,
I do think it's a ton of money.
Well, remember, Michael Schumacher was making close to 50 or 70 million a year, and so years ago. Yeah. So if I'm a 7-time world champion, I'm looking at my 7-time world champion counterpart, and I'm thinking about 20 years later.
Man, don't you understand what later means?
We're going to get there. But I like where you're going with it. Renault.
Hold on. Did you spell that?
We're going to talk Renault.
Don't bring the new guy in here. You put a muzzle on me.
No, he's good. He's good. I like it. We're going to talk the IndyCar test at Sebring, some Marco Andretti news and what the hell happened to him. Simona Di Silvestro. We're going to talk about IMSA and the Rolex 24 that's about to happen next weekend, and the Roar Before that's about to happen tomorrow. We're recording this on Saturday. Loic Duval from Formula E. If you remember what he said about Formula E, that the drivers were paid to say that, it's a great series and they love racing it. He's popped up back in the news again. Some WEC news. And then I had a question about some Hall of Fame and why the hell.
Holy crap. Do you want to make this a longer episode?
This is going to be a long one, baby. You can listen. Feel free to watch this in sections. You don't have to sit down and watch our episode from front to back right away.
These miscellaneous questions, man.
Yeah. What's up?
They were so miscellaneous that we couldn't remember who put them in the notes.
Yes. These miscellaneous questions, they've been in our notes for a while, and we just never really hit on them. So we're going to hit on them now. So let's start with the first. Let's go. Probably. Let's start with the miscellaneous questions first. Could there be an international racing league? So what I mean by that is winners. How do you want to explain it?
And we touched on this a little previously, was an idea that we had. Jarrett was like, hey, why aren't there like playoffs, like East Coast, West Coast type thing? And we were trying to like, well, where could that actually fit? And playoffs are even an American type of thing. Like they don't have playoffs overseas as much as just it's points and then whoever has the points wins. But what kind of racing series could this play into? And what we settled on was something like Formula 3, where you have Formula 3 Asia, you have Formula 3 UK, Formula 3 Italy, International Formula 3, which then follows Formula 1 around, right? But they're all individual racing series, and they all have their own champions. Now, what if, and wouldn't it be cool if, since those series are shortened anyway, not shortened, but shorter than other racing series, Formula 1, IndyCar, etc., is the champions of those from around the world get together and it's a champions race of the Formula 3, Formula 4. Like that would be an international champion versus champion, really cool racing series.
So I believe you don't think so?
No.
Well, first off, you're halfway there.
He's got his arms crossed.
You're halfway. You're halfway there. You already have halftime shows, and you already have quarters in racing. So I mean, why not? Here's I'm making fun of professional wrestling. I mean NASCAR. So here's the deal. I'm not saying that it doesn't have some valor, or some merit, but open wheel racing is, unfortunately, I think one of the best racing. But it may not get the same draw, and so now you're going to try to take obscure names from different countries and marry them together. I mean, can you imagine Osaka Nakamichi winning the thing and everybody's going, ooh? It's part of it. I don't mean this as a derogatory thing. I'm making fun of both of you. How do you get out of here? But I'm just pointing out that it's hard enough to diffracting racing takes money and diffracts it. I think centralizing it is financially important for the sport to proceed, and it's just like it's sponsors, right? So how is an American company sponsor a Japanese car? And one of the things that when I was talking to one of my NASCAR executive friends, he made clear, listen, the driver is what we're selling at this point. The cars are somewhat generic, right?
Right.
So it's the drivers that we try to build, and that's why in the TV, they're always trying to pump up the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you brought drivers that people never heard of, it's a harder sell. Not that I don't think the competition part of it would be excellent, but the damn greed part of it, the money part of it would be difficult.
But that's different. Like, and we've touched on this once. Was here in America, it's all about. It's all about the driver, right? Everybody is a fan of a particular driver, whereas in Formula 1, you can have a favorite driver, but the team kind of
that's true.
You're rooting for Mercedes, you're rooting for Ferrari, and Ferrari's then driver, and you can have your favorite driver, but over there you're pushing the team, whereas nobody's pushing Andretti versus Ganassi. Like,
well, you're right, and here's why: because the teams are centralized to the countries. So now that's you make a valid point. That's my team. My team is the English team. It's the German team. It's the French team.
And
it's
you don't
the
think
Italian
that would pull in fans and money?
That's a good point. That is the point.
So this is what I was. The reason why I brought that up. Let me kind of explain my vision of it. Right now, for the most part, especially in 2020 with COVID, what happened was nobody came to the Formula 1 didn't come to America.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not saying that you should do this with Formula 1 or IndyCar or the top level racers. Those top ones, they're there.
Of course not. Of course
I'm
not.
talking about the lower level ones where we can get feeder series, right? Because some people they really want to race. Don't get me wrong. People do want to move up and get to Formula 1.
They do.
But
Everybody
right now,
does.
if you win the Formula 3 championship, you have to leave Formula 3. You have to graduate. You can't race again, from what I understand. Now, my problem with that is, what happens if that driver just really enjoys racing, wants to continue racing in Formula 3?
He goes to WEC or IMSA,
right? But he has to move,
or ends up in IndyCar.
And then you look at like we had what was that young kid's name? He races the SCCA, the Trans Am.
Ernie
Francis Jr.
Yeah.
came in. He said his sponsors don't want to graduate. His sponsors are happy with him racing what he's racing, and they don't want to move with him to pay more money and go to another series.
They're getting their bang out of for their buck.
So my thing is this. If you had a Formula 3 or a Formula 2 series, right? Again, shortened series. A lot of them race maybe half the races that Formula 1 races.
Right.
Last year, especially with COVID, they shut down traveling. But think about how much money it costs those Formula 3 teams. Right now, for you to run a Formula 3 car, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Millions.
It's ridiculous, right?
Millions.
But now you also got to think.
But for the driver to come in, it's hundreds of thousands.
Oh, yeah. The driver has to fork over hundreds of thousands.
Or bring sponsors that are
sponsors offset it sometimes, family members, stuff like that.
Well, that's
my thing is, if you're putting all that money in there, it's a lot of it is logistics for what the team needs to do. Well, a lot of it is moving things around and developing new parts. Now, listen.
No, I hear you. I got something here.
Let me finish. Go ahead. If they were to condense that, right? You make rules standard across the board worldwide. You have a North America, right? Canada, United States, even Mexico. They all race. We do races in Mexico, North America, and Canada, right? Then you go. You do a South America. All those countries will race, and find champions. All right. And then you take the top 2. All right. And then, Africa. You have South Africa. And you have racers that are coming out of there that might never get a call up. They might even never get seen because they don't have the money. But now you can shrink the money, right? Everybody race each other and you use that money to bankroll. I know we've talked about this, but you use that money and the wins you've made to now bankroll going international and racing maybe like a 6-race series in Europe,
right,
where everybody meets from Asia, from Africa, from Europe.
Well,
you bring everybody together.
Here's an interesting. You have to be at 5 continents. You have to hit 5 continents to have a Formula 1 season, right? Isn't that's why they didn't come to America? They went to Asia.
For Formula 1.
Yeah,
right. We're still talking. Formula 3 doesn't do that.
But here's what I'm saying. If the way to look at this, where the money makes sense is if the teams were the ones. Like Hamilton was a junior driver for a
McLaren,
10, right? Yeah. So what if they say, well, go back to the driver being the marketability? If we're going to bring, XYZ from South America or XYZ from Asia that nobody's ever heard of, what a great way to season the driver's name into the other markets.
Right.
That's where I could see the Formula 1 teams and mostly Formula 1 teams, maybe some American big teams saying, hey, we need to make these drivers more marketable when they get here.
Right.
There's young drivers in IndyCar that are from other parts of the world that we've never heard of. You take Ericsson, right? Who's the two guys from Formula 1 or 3 guys? Ericsson,
Marcus Ericsson came over.
I mean, if we know because we're Formula 1 fans, but here's a world-class driver nobody's ever heard of. So you try to bring him to America. Now they're trying to, how do you get the American fans to say who? So that's an interesting thing where they can season. There's a way of seasoning the drivers' names, and the guy that wins, he's gotten all this press from all the continents.
Right.
So it does, and I'm not saying not to include IndyCar or somebody in America, a feeder series.
Right.
The other thing you could do is to lower the cost is the cars are generic. So when they fly to one continent, they race 6 or 8 cars that are set up. The cars stay there. They go to another continent and they race this, so you don't have to move the equipment around.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's one prep shop,
right,
and each country does each. So, and you lottery the cars,
right?
So you don't know who's getting a better car or worse car.
So there was a World Series and you basically had a team from Israel, a team from the Netherlands, a team from the UK, right? But you were basically looking for drivers from these nations, right? They may not necessarily have been the best drivers or have the best name recognition. They may not have been champions. They had the people that had enough money to get into it and were from that specific country. So I can understand how that failed because who's driving? But what I see as something that's possible is bring all that together. I mean, if you get the champion of the Formula Atlantic, the champion of, the New Zealand series that they have down at this time of year, which has a great record of getting people to Formula 1, right?
Hartley.
Yeah, Hartley, Stroll. I mean, it goes on and on of how many people have come through New Zealand. All right. Anyway, and then
you get sidetracked a little
UK, Italy, getting those champions from there, where they may have the name recognition already because they've gone through those feeder series, and then you stick them in like Europe, get them all together somewhere in Europe, go around 5-6 tracks and have at it. Who's then the best of those champions? I think that is amazingly entertaining. I think that it would have the name recognition because it's a series made up of the champions. And what I was thinking before is when you were talking, Jared, was that then is something like a Premier League. You've done well. You're not just Joe Blow who's from the Netherlands and has the money to race. You're a champion of a feeder series, and now you're coming into the Premier League feeder series to show that you're the best of the best. Put me in Formula One.
So one thing I'd say from a driver's point of view, to be fair, you'd have to, you can't. I know Road America, Mid Ohio, Watkins Glen like the back of my hand. I don't know anything about Spa.
You got to learn it.
No, that's not fair because if you have it only in one area, you know what I'm saying is you'd have to move to get. If everybody's going to have equal cars, they should have.
Well, then why don't you do it?
You'd have to do it in 3 continents where everybody's had a chance.
I see where you're going with that. So you would say the Premier League would be 6 races or 5 races on 5 different cars. So you'd pick one like Suzuka, maybe Monaco or Spa.
But now you're getting expensive, and you're making
the
it
cars
less
are
likely,
staying there.
Right, the cars are staying there.
The drivers
and that's
are
the Premier
flying.
Series only.
I hear it,
it's not the feeder series.
Yeah,
But
well,
if you want it to get done, you're going to want it to be cheap.
But I think
I think that is cheap. You're talking about 6 cars that are staying in each continent or each race at each.
Yeah,
you can move a car from Watkins Glen to Mid Ohio to Long Beach, but you can't moving a car from America to South America is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you just say you're going to have this. It's the same. By the way, most of the cars that these guys have been racing, most of them are spec cars. I don't think there's a ton of things you can do.
No, most of
even
them
in Formula 3, they probably have a cap on the horsepower, cap on the weight. The suspensions are you can only buy this suspension.
Right.
You're probably buying like in America, you're buying an Indy car, you're buying a chassis that's already made, and
that's what I'm saying. I think it would be
you
a
have
good
to do
idea.
that.
And then,
otherwise, you're not going to have what you want is a pure driver's series.
and
that's what I'm saying.
I think the last thing is it would also give Formula One their junior programs. It would give them a little bit more options. Right, you wouldn't be spending so much money on just one person or just 2 people, whereas now you can kind of spread the money out over like 4 or 5 drivers. And you could actually find the best driver.
Yeah,
all right.
I got invited to drive in Atlanta the other day.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a friend of mine. He goes, "Hey, it's an E30 race car Chump Series," and he goes, "Man, we're 1 driver short, and we got these guys coming up, and they don't have any experience, and it's only $1,500." I go, "That's nothing." For a 14-hour race, and we have free hotel rooms, everything. All you have to do is fly to Atlanta.
Right.
So I said, look, I haven't driven this car before. I haven't been in a race car in a bit, and I don't know Atlanta.
Right.
So I said, and there's a the Harry down there, the hill down. I said, dude, I will do that same deal in anywhere in Moroso, Sebring, Homestead.
Track you feel comfortable.
Yeah, go to Road America. I'd be really happy.
Yeah.
But for me to take all that on, and that's insanity.
Yeah.
The only thing I've done is driven the car around the warehouse.
Right.
Which it's an E30 with, you get it, but man, you can really get hurt too.
Yeah, you can.
And you can really ball up somebody else's car.
That's true.
I said, how do you want the learning curve to go? Do you want the learning curve to be efficient or inefficient? Put me on a track I've never been on in a car I've never been in, and tell me we're not even getting 1 practice day.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This is this next thing. Moving on. I know we're probably gonna have to break this up into parts because this is really good. I like where this is going. A lot of good conversation and ideas getting thrown around. This is something big for Ken. That being a driver is probably gonna be good to hear your aspect of it. But I was thinking the other day, and I was sitting around, and I was like, you know what? You see these guys like, I can't remember who said it the other day, but they're like, oh, Vettel will be a very good mentor for Stroll.
Right.
Now, and then you say, Vettel was with Leclerc. I don't
see
know
any mentoring. I think he drove him off the track 3 times.
Right. Leclerc says he mentored me and I learned a lot from Vettel, but on the track it looked like they were just, throwing elbows. So my question is, do you think that mentors in racing, and not just Formula One, but all types of racing, do you think that mentors in racing don't want their trainees to overshadow their accomplishments? So for somebody like we'll just pick Vettel because he's, one of the biggest ones, 4-time champion. would he want to teach Leclerc everything he knows, even though that he is probably on his way out sometime soon, within the next 2-3 years, he's probably not going to be in the league. Is he going to teach him everything he knows?
Poor guy's going to retire with four-time champion. I mean,
yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, he didn't really do much when he was in the sport,
But from like when you were racing, did you have any mentors that you learned from?
Yeah, you learned from all the guys. I remember.
But were they free giving the information?
Yeah.
Really?
And I mean, because first off, if you think that that guy's so much better than you that you can't help him, then you're getting brain fucked there, right?
It makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like I remember my teammate, hey, can he go out and follow you and see what he's doing? Can you follow him, see the difference? We pull back in, and he was, won the series and went on to be Rookie of the Year in Indy and finished third. So he's the driver, and his father was a driver.
And you taught him the track?
No, he taught out. We were out there together one time, and he asked, yeah, right, yeah. I drew a little thing with crayons of Indy, and I showed him what to do, and I just kept going around and around, and he finally finished his last beer and goes, "I got this. Hold my beer." So no, but we went out there one time, and he followed me to see what I was doing, what he was doing, and he came back in. He goes, "There's nothing I can say. At this level, everybody knows what they're doing. There's such nuances, right?
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like now, like I see like driving instructors like Peter Krause and these other guys with the telemetry,
right?
Dude, if I had that telemetry, my learning curve could have been so much better because I might have been flat out in the kink, which I was, which is a hair raising. You talk to anybody, flat out in the kink in any car is you got your nuts in your hands.
Yeah.
So that was no big deal to me because I was comfortable with. I might have been losing 1/10 of a second in a slow turn, like at Road America 5 or the squiggles, whatever they call it up in Mid Ohio. I think it's 9. So 9, 10, 11, I guess it would be 6, 7, 8. But anyway, that's where I was losing speed. I wish somebody could have helped. And I had to drive. Listen, there's driving coaches. You pay a guy, and he may not even be a great driver, but he's out there because he's out there watching you on the track and looking. Now you can do it with such telemetry where they bring you in and they go, look what you've done here. And that's what the Formula 1 and IndyCar guys use, right? So I don't believe that anybody, when Gil DeFerrin is and all these old drivers like Prost and all these guys out there trying to help. First off, look, if you're racing, the difference is Prost and Gil DeFerrin, those guys are retired. Right. We're talking about teammates.
Right.
And teammates aren't going to have any love for each other.
The mentorship probably is more off the track at this point.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. You're saying with how much computer telemetry and how many consultants you have walking around.
They might, and they're our team. Remember, for one thing, when you're talking about the new team that he's going to, the father owns the team.
Right.
So, if he's paying you $40 million to race your car, you better be helping the kid out.
Right.
And it's always a team sport, right? Even though it's an individual, racing's an unusual thing because football's a team sport. Racing is an individual sport, right? I want to run everybody off the road and win the race.
Yeah.
But you still have team. It's a team sport, and it's a dangerous sport where you have to respect each other and you don't want to hurt anybody. So that's that. It's not like you're going to elbow the guy. Well,
that makes sense.
You see it, but I think the reason Vettel is going to Aston Martin with Stroll is more of a marketing thing. I think they're dumping a ton of money into that team. I think the old man put a ton of money into that team, and Stroll is not a marquee name, and neither was Perez, and neither was. They needed to bring a marquee name to that team.
All right,
that's why he's there. And I don't believe he's going to do. I think you're going to see a regenerated Vettel. I don't think he's going to be. I think he's going to see a guy that races more like he was at Red Bull than Ferrari.
Ooh,
that's my prediction. Boy, I shouldn't have said that on tape, though.
We'll bring it back up.
We'll hold you to it.
Well, because I like the old guy,
We have another one. Is right before we get into our Formula One and stuff about Bottas and Eddie Jordan and stuff like that. Why don't we see the old GT3 cars? Like once they race 1-2 years and then they retire the car, like the old C7 Corvettes. The only time you ever see those is like around Goodwood. They'll do like
this vintage racing.
Vintage racing.
Right. There should be a series for those.
Why isn't there an actual series? Because you got to think, right? A lot of those cars had balance of power, right? In endurance racing, it's all balance of power. So all the cars are evened out. So it doesn't matter if they're putting in new stuff. So if you balance of powered, cars, if you do like a, from 2000 to 2010, and you lumped all those cars together.
You could have, in endurance racing, you could have a class form.
It's not even, you could do it in a class form. My thing is
Trans Am has an A, an A and a B class.
Right. So if you took every car from 2000 to 2010 and put them in one, that's one class, and then you balance the power the shit out of them, so they're all about the same balance of power. I'd go see that race.
But I don't know that,
is there any money in that maybe?
Well, they have, you could take that car to Trans Am, you could take it to, or whatever series, SCCA. I mean, in endurance racing, you could think they could be at 24 Hours at Daytona or Sebring.
Right.
I mean, you can race back in the day, man, I remember one of my friends racing in Sebring. He had an old Camaro, and it was ridiculous. And he had, those orange lights on the hood?
Yeah.
Like you see on a city truck?
Yeah.
The little... He had one on the top of the car, the hood, just rotating because that way he wouldn't get run over in the middle of the night.
Jesus.
But he was out there, man, and he was banging around for, So part of it, I think, again, if you look at this, Corvette doesn't want anybody to think about a C7 right now. They want you to think about a C8.
Yeah.
And Porsche doesn't want you thinking about some old car that you could buy used. They want you to sell on Sunday, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. They're in racing to sell cars, not used cars.
Yeah,
new
that
cars.
Makes sense.
But I'm not saying that those cars should go. I agree with you. I mean, if you look at NASCAR, they use cars for like 5 or 6 years in the old days, and they just reskin them and change some bits.
Right.
But the chassis last forever.
Yeah. Right.
Now I don't know what the new NASCAR with their new stuff will that be the same play. The chassis probably won't transfer, or they might.
Yeah. Jared and I had a whole long talk about this one time when we were hanging out, and this came up, and I don't know. It's interesting. I just. Maybe I don't foresee it happening though.
A 4-hour race you could do, or a 6-hour race you do before like a big 12 or 24.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I think it'd be pretty cool. So let's move forward. Let's get into Formula One. Recently in Formula One, Bottas was actually asked the question of why he, doesn't. They asked him why he doesn't drive more like Nico Rosberg.
It's funny, I think we've talked about this on a few episodes.
So much on this. We've been saying this for months that if Bottas wants to really run with Hamilton and possibly rattle his cage, that he needs to do more of a Rosberg type approach where he is maybe don't share everything.
Have that confidence. In yourself.
Right.
This is the year. If I win, Mercedes will probably keep me. If I lose, they're probably going to ditch me. But you know what?
And you know what
he said? I can go and do it. I know exactly what he said, and I disagree with him.
He said he had no interest in playing mind games with his teammate. Yeah. And he did not want to be compared or thought of as Nico Rosberg. He said, I think the strength we have in the team is definitely that we can work as a team. He said, so there is not going to be any hiding of setups or data or anything, and the team spirit in team sports is underestimated. Hold on, I'm still going. He's got 2 more quotes. He said, I think it's really important that you need to keep the motivation up and have no conflicts. And of course, along the way, there's been many people suggest that I be a Nico Rosberg, but I am not a Nico Rosberg. I much prefer to do the talking on the track and race fair.
And he will. And Mercedes will continue to dominate, and he will never be a champion if he does this. By the way,
neither was...
That's not a championship mentality.
Right, but you understand something. It doesn't matter what he wants. The driver's championship is secondary to the constructor's championship in Formula One. And that's my big gripe, because in IndyCar, there's no such thing as a constructor. It's the driver. And I'm an IndyCar fan, most other series, obviously. But that's the thing. And one of the things that you got to think of the marketing. When Rosberg and Hamilton were going tire to tire for 2 or 3 years, and you turned on the TV every day to see what the hell was going on. There was a great, but now things have evolved a bit. Mercedes is more has made their mark. They've made their statement. And now what Mercedes doesn't want, the Germans, once they have things, they like to calm down a little bit and sit down, have a beer, get some schnitzel, maybe have a bunch of potatoes boiled. I'm thinking of my mother's home cooking. Oh, anyway, so
Mr. Behr over here.
So my point is, Mercedes don't want no effing bad apples in the pack, right? Because now they've got something that's refined,
and that's fine,
and it's marketable. And the last thing they need to do, because when you're a team owner and you're sitting there on the wall and you're watching your 2 drivers take each other out almost, man, you got to hear it from
And
all
that's
the way
fine,
from
but
the top
get it.
all the way
listen,
down.
You're a driver, Ken, right? You're a driver. And for
I'm
the
talking
last,
about as a money guy and a team owner.
I understand that.
that.
But you're, as a driver, as Bottas, if you were Bottas in the last, 4 or 5 years, he's been his teammate, 4 years?
Since 2017.
Something like that.
3 years.
So if you've been
4 years.
if you've been his teammate for 4 years, right, and he's literally slapped you around all 4 years, you've never even really come close to winning a championship. And your
I don't
time,
think Bottas may not be able to.
your time,
He thinks he can.
he thinks he can, and your time in Formula One is coming short.
Well, I don't think Bottas is going anywhere in Formula One. He's a really good driver. I mean, he's proven it over and over and over and over again.
I think he's also proven that if you put somebody else in the car, they could do just
Well,
as
when Russell got in the car and outraced Bottas,
Yeah.
there's your
That's
that
my thing.
answers your
So-
thing, though.
so now my
if
thing is this.
Hamilton was so much, if they were so close in ability, Bottas and Hamilton, then how the hell did Russell get in the car and wipe Bottas's ass?
So is it the car or is Russell just that good? We've had that
well,
talk in the
Russell
past.
is that good, but he's that good in that great car.
My
So
thing
then-
is
You
this,
could take
if-
almost any driver in Formula One and put him in that
Yes.
car, and they're going to do as good as Bottas.
So then
But
writing
maybe
is on the
nobody- but
wall.
guys, nobody's going to do as good as Hamilton. So at one point, they all got together and said, "Listen, bitch, slap you.
But-
Nobody's going to take him out, and we're going to make sure you don't even think about it
But
because you're never going to do
everybody
it
thought
anyway."
everybody
Fuck that.
thought that same thing about Hamilton versus Rosberg, and Hamilton was always going to get
I never-
Rosberg. But you know what? Rosberg in 1 year said, "I'm going balls to the wall.
and
I'm
whatever
doing
happens,
everything I
happens.
have to do. I'm taking a page out of Schumacher's book because when Schumacher and Rosberg were teammates, he literally played mind games on Rosberg to the
To my
point
Keke
where
Rosberg versus how did Schumacher?
No.
when Mercedes came back to the sport,
Michael Schumacher raced
Michael
for Mercedes.
Schumacher raced for them for a
Right,
few years.
right.
Okay, and he was teammates with Nico Rosberg, to the point where there's one story that Schumacher hung out in the one bathroom that Mercedes had for a crazy long time right before quali, so that Nico didn't have time to go to relieve himself before quali, just so that Nico wasn't in the mindset to beat Schumacher when they got out on track.
That's
So
good. And
that's
a big
what
thing, by the way.
Schumacher
As
did.
a driver, when you have to go out, I mean, you could literally have to go back and forth 3 or 4 times because your nerves, you're trying to empty your bladder
That's what I'm
constantly.
Right. So
yeah.
now
That's-
Nico,
and he probably watched Nico like his like I used to. That was something I went to the bathroom like 5 times before the start of a race,
exactly.
and I bet he watched Nico as that was his. Maybe it
Of
wasn't
course.
his MO.
That's fine.
Not everybody does, but that's something. Everybody has their
my
thing.
my point is, Rosberg got stink and pressure from Mercedes and everybody else. I mean, Niki Lauda even came out and was putting a lot of the blame on Nico Rosberg for a long time. Okay, but you know what? He did it, and now he's able to say, "I was a world champion."
I'll tell you
I
this.
think
but
that
you're
if
missing-
Bottas doesn't do it, he can then leave Mercedes going, "I was the best number 2 in the game. Mercedes loved me. They kept
But
giving me
didn't- wait a
1-year
second.
deals for as long as Hamilton's there," but he will never be able to say, "I am a world champion."
And who was Schumacher's second? Gerhard Berger, right? Wasn't it Berger?
Fabulous. Yeah, for a little while.
No, for like
He had
5
a few-
years, he
yeah,
got one
yeah,
win.
yeah.
And
Rubens
one time, I think
Barrichello.
he let him. He had to let Schumacher go by, and then another
Schumacher had
race he
several
paid him
teammates,
back.
same thing, yeah.
The only, I think he was like the Perry Mason. He was like the guy, the prosecutor. He won one case in the entire 7 years. He won one race, and he was a phenomenal driver. Ferrari wasn't going to have any of it.
Well, let me.
But let me just say something to
Go
what
ahead.
you're saying. When Rosberg was involved, what was Hamilton on his 3rd championship and his 4th? And
I
that
think it was
they
3.
were right in the middle of that. Now he's got 7. They're just not going to screw, So I'm just saying that you got to remember, I don't disagree with anything you're saying whatsoever, but it's evolved. The team's evolved. The factories, the money, this is what they want. Now, let's throw in, what if Hamilton doesn't what if Hamilton says, you know what? Because he's a pretty free thinker. Guys, I don't care about anything. I got all the money I'll ever need to spend the rest of my life. I'm risking my life every day, and I'm going to fly around. Now they have more races. Now he's been against more Formula One races. He was adamant about not putting more dates on. And if I remember correctly, they put some more dates on. I don't know, could be wrong.
Well, we'll get into the money because I don't think I think you might change your mind about that.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I don't think Hamilton's going to retire until he can get 8 championships, because there's probably nobody in the history who will get 8. You know,
I mean, we said that about Schumacher.
well, you know, but you understand, it's to prove it's the car. Vettel got 4 in a row when the car, and there was no beating that car. You know, I'm just saying it's in Formula One.
Hybrid era is coming to an end.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying in Formula One,
I'll say
the
this.
car.
You got to think about it. Rosberg wins that championship in 2016 and immediately retires the next that year.
Yep.
Now, listen, he said it himself, and we'll never know the actual truth, but he said, you know, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in Formula One, and I walked away from the sport.
Well, that's what his father did, basically.
But you know what I think happened? And this is complete conspiracy theory. I have no fucking data for this.
I got conspiracies. Where do you want to go with this?
Think about this. I think that he bumped off Hamilton. He won the championship, and Mercedes was like, "You weren't supposed to fucking do that." And then what happened was they were like, "We're gonna deal you. You know, we're not gonna re-sign you next year." And then he was like, "You know what? Do I go to a lesser team and not race for a championship?"
You think they came up to him and said, "Hey, listen, you know, we don't want anybody to get hurt here. You know, you're gonna walk away quietly. You're going to retire."
No,
I don't think so.
No. Because Mercedes wasn't ready for maybe down the road. Maybe they said after your current contract.
No, wait. I'm going to stop you both. I'm going to tell you as a driver, 1,000% that's not the case. 1,000%, because he's never even touched a steering wheel. That kid started at 4 in go-karts. You know, as I said once before on the show, Skip Barber said everybody only has so much race in them. You know, Paul Newman started late, and he had a lot of race in him. He raced late. You know, I had good friends of mine that were phenomenal go-kart racers, 7-time national champion, and I go, buddy, get in the car. He ran out of race at a young age. So I just think Rosberg's looking at it going, honest, in my personal opinion, he may not have wanted the stress of going head-to-head with Hamilton another year. Because they built so much stress, and it might have just drained. Look, he did say, and he did go, and he did do exactly what he fought for. And he stressed, they played mind games with each other. I don't know that he wanted another thing, but his father did the same thing. He won 1 world championship, and then I think he retired. He came back 1 year.
He raced after that. He just didn't have the skill.
No, but I think he didn't. He raced 1 more year when they asked him to come back. He didn't. He quit and then came back.
KK won the world championship having won 1 race that year. Don't.
No, hey, but listen, guys, I used to watch. KK was a freaking phenomenal driver.
But if Jules Villeneuve did not pass away in the middle of the season, Villeneuve would have won that championship.
Maybe so, but you know what? If you know,
KK is one of the luckiest
monkeys had wings,
world
they'd be flying. You know, I mean, in racing,
but it's happened. I'm just saying, for Bottas, it's not going to happen.
No, but I'm saying in racing, that's the way it goes. If this didn't happen, if that didn't happen, that's what happens. But you know, all for a 20-cent part, I could have won Indy, and more than 1 million times was said, probably. Well, more than 120 times. So, or at least every guy that didn't win, whatever. But my point is, to get to the bottom of this is, as a driver, I think Rosberg just said, dude, I've got more money than I can ever spend. I live in a beautiful Monaco. I have a hot young wife. I have a newborn child that's 1 year old, and I'm tired of traveling the world.
And that's fine. But before he did it, he went out and he
won a
stuck it to him and won a championship.
Yeah, now listen,
but if Bottas is never going to compete, he's never going to be champion.
But here's the thing.
I'd rather be a champion and spend 1 year in Formula One than spend a 10-year career in Formula One and never
being in last place. Now, here's the thing, though. I will tell you. Here's the hypothesis that we can go on. What if that next year it wasn't Hamilton he was going to race against? It was Bottas. Would he have quit? In other words, would he have said, "Oh, dude, I got another championship. This guy's never going to do nothing near me." And so, and don't get me wrong, I think Bottas is a phenomenal driver, and he's
not a Rosberg or Hamilton.
Well, he's proved it. He's gotten poles. He's won races. He's driven the tires off of cars. You know, but remember, it's not about winning races. Right. It's not about winning races. Not about getting poles. It's about that fine nuance that Hamilton has, that all the great champions has, where they can get to the finish line and win at all costs. You know, somebody once said, show me a driver that can get to the finish line in a go-kart, and I'll put him in an Indy car, because he knows how to get to the finish line. He knows, the winner's circle.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, you know, this is all hypothetical, but I maybe the only thing I could possibly give a quarter to in this conversation is that if maybe it wasn't Hamilton, maybe it was somebody like Bottas or a lesser driver, where he could have went out and handily won the championship, or at least not had the same stress doing it. Maybe something different. But at this point, I just want to say, 7 championships later, 4 or 5 years later, I don't see Mercedes allowing Bottas to do anything but what he's doing.
You want to roll into Hamilton now that we're here?
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll come back to Eddie Jordan and Helmut Marko.
To end it, the team can say whatever they want. He's the one with the steering wheel and the throttle. Okay? how many times 2 years ago was Ferrari telling Vettel, back off, we had an agreement before a race that you're going to, you're starting behind Leclerc, you're going to get the slipstream, now let Leclerc pass. And what did Vettel do? He ignored it and just said, tell him to get closer, okay?
Yeah.
Mercedes can put all the pressure they want on a driver, and Mercedes did that.
They can do a lot of things.
Mercedes did that to Rosberg. Mercedes put the pressure on Rosberg. Rosberg said, F you, I'm going to win my championship.
Yeah.
And remember, as a team, you don't want to beat that out of a driver either.
All this is if Bottas is going to play the team game, and I understand there's a lot of respect in that, and that is awesome, and that's why Hamilton loves him, because he knows he won't play this mind games BS and pressure him. That's fine.
He's the Mike Pence of
You're not
Formula
going
1.
to be a world champion.
He's the Mike Pence. Okay? He's just going to be right there as a lapdog.
We all know that the driver salary caps are coming. All right. We all know that the financials in Formula One is changing.
In racing. In
racing. So let's get into the Hamilton contract. And from what the rumors have been and what I can see, here's where we're at. Hamilton, everyone thought that Mercedes was going to want a long-term contract and Hamilton was going to say, I want a 1 or 2 year contract. Turns out, it seems from what the rumors are, it's the opposite. Hamilton wants a 4-year deal, $50 million a year, plus he wants 10% of the winnings.
Of his winnings or the whole team?
Of the team's winnings.
Suspectedly.
Well, that's nothing. That's like rumor. Listen. That's like baseball What the guy want? $120 million. The use of the team jet, a skybox.
Right.
But, that's normal. That's normal. Ask. You ask and you negotiate.
Not
down.
in Formula One. There's a cap there's a cap in Formula One for the teams. So they're gonna take some of that money that is designated in the cap and give it to Hamilton.
Now there's a cap. There's going to be a cap, right? So now we're saying 4 years into this cap, whatever, 10% of the winnings on top of the cap, right? So now the cap has brought us down to here, and now we're going to have to give 10% of that away to our driver.
Well, he could do another way of doing it. He can say, listen, this is what I want to do. I'm going to, I probably wouldn't do it because the team could just shut itself down, but he could say, look, I want to get paid for 4 years, and I want the payout of the 10% to go on for 10 years. So he could spread. Now that's what
might be smart.
I mean, that's what they do. A lot of times they don't take all the money. They take, like you can say, instead of me flying my corporate jet, from now I'm going to use you're going to supply there could be.
Well, this is what Mercedes did.
You can't fly a jet enough to hide, $20 million.
Right.
It's close, but
Daimler stood up and said, well, we got George Russell and he did great at Sakir. So we're just going to go ahead and.
Well, that's negotiating.
And Hamilton got up and walked out. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Ferrari invited Hamilton to drive their car.
When?
The other day, it was just in the news. He went over and, that's what I read. I didn't read into it. I just read the blurb,
I don't think any,
you can drive another car. There's no law against it.
Explain this to me. How come no other team reached out to Hamilton? This was the end of his contract.
They don't have the money.
Ferrari doesn't have the money.
Ferrari just said to him, come drive my car. But I don't know anybody else has got the money. You think someone's going to say, listen, I can't see Hamilton going, pay me $50 million and I'll run third place. That's it. I think you're listening to, and I'm not saying that we really know what the inside negotiations are, but from my personal feeling, off the cuff, I think this is just negotiating. I think Mercedes is talking about George Russell, and I think Hamilton's talking about wanting to own half the team, and I think somewhere in the middle lies the truth. I'm a car guy. I'm a world's greatest negotiator. They're just negotiating.
Where do you get into where you've negotiated so much, or you're trying to get so much out of the team that you start hurting the team that you're racing for?
Well, that's something that's you got to think about, I guess. Like goes in any team, when the quarterback wants, remember we have salary caps in in American sports. What's it on baseball and football, don't we?
Right, and I'm also shocked at the request for a 4-year contract for somebody who has bashed on, fuel consumption and is so big into
I think he's starting high, and I think he's starting at 4, and it's going to come down to 3 to match Toto's contract.
But here's the thing: that's exactly right. And the other thing, and the other thing, it might be is these final 2 years, the final year may not even be as a driver. It might be as part of the team principal, as part of the management. Remember that happens too, where okay, you get so many years at the sport, and then you stay on with the team as this. He could have a salary like Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda was...
Well, Jenson Button also just got hired by Williams to be a consulting executive and stuff.
So maybe he's just saying, hey, I want to have a 4-year contract. I want 2 years of racing and 2 years of with the team as an emissary.
But
pay me. I want to fly to every race. I don't want to pay my own money. So you pay me $2 million a year to be part of the team, and then I have my hotel room, my access to the van. Imagine going.
But he's got a singing career that he's got to worry about.
Yeah.
Imagine going to a race. Imagine going to a race and they don't let you in the team bus. Like you're there, like it's raining. You're actually at the concession stand.
Lewis Hamilton stand
you're getting a
outside
sausage, and you're getting a brat, and you're fighting it for the mustard pump, and you know what I mean? Like
you look over and Lewis Hamilton's standing next to you.
Yeah, and he's going, "Hey man, you gonna put ketchup on your dog or what?"
So I think that to go back to your question of how come nobody else is making offers, I think this goes towards my feelings on this is speculation for people not in the know. Everybody who's in the know has absolutely no fear that thought that they're not going to come to terms. They're going to come to terms. Hamilton's going to be in a Mercedes, however long it is, whatever. The particulars don't matter. They're going to sign the contract, right?
I agree with that.
So no other team is wasting time in reaching out to Hamilton because none of them think that for a second they're not going to come to terms eventually.
The only team is Ferrari, and why? Because if you're going to retire, you like to say, "If I raced a Ferrari." Right. I mean, it's just part of your legacy. I did this. I raced for Ferrari.
Sure.
I mean, Leclerc kicked my ass, but
he has always been a Mercedes driver.
No doubt, but it doesn't mean that. Listen, and Tom Brady was always with the Pats, man.
Ooh,
and now he's sitting there throwing balls for the Tampa Bay.
How's that going?
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's deep in the playoffs.
Just joking.
So let's say this: Eddie Jordan is back.
I didn't see it happening that way, but it did happen that way.
It's weird, is I never really agree with Eddie Jordan, and this time I thought it was funny enough to go ahead and talk about it in the show. So he said 3 main things. He said the last 2 years against Leclerc at Ferrari have been pathetic. I don't know why he looks so bad. He won 4 world titles, but I think he's past his peak. In any case, I would have kept Sergio Perez. That's the first thing he said. He said, I like Vettel a lot, but I think Aston Martin made a mistake in signing him. And then he also said, Lance is a lucky bag.
I saw that.
You never know what's inside. Sometimes he drives well. Sometimes he drives extremely badly, and he's anything but consistent.
And consistency in racing is everything.
It's huge, and he has made it known. Eddie Jordan is a polarizing figure. You either love Eddie Jordan or you hate Eddie Jordan. And I would say probably most lean towards the latter. I've never met the guy, but we'll see. I would say that he is 100% against Vettel racing for Aston Martin. He thought that he was trash at Ferrari. He got slapped around by a young teammate. And him moving to Aston Martin, they should have kept Perez because Perez was a better racer in recent and long term.
And go back to my first comments in the beginning of the show, possibly. But I think the big thing is you needed the name. Nobody gives a crap about Perez. He was gonna go dust into the wind, and he could have been racing Miatas or something like that, and nobody would have cared. Not that I don't think he's a phenomenal driver, but that's the case. But Vettel is a name brand.
So you're taking names over wins.
I'm just
Perez
telling
will probably get you up there.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to go back to the original statement that I made a few minutes ago. Show me a driver that knows how to get to the winner's circle, and he'll get to the winner's circle. You're not going to tell me that Perez is going to outdrive Vettel to the winner's circle. They might drive capably, and neither one of them get to the winner's circle. But in my book, if there's going to be one of the two get to the winner's circle, it's going to be Vettel. Number one. Number two, Vettel can make a deal that we just talked about with Hamilton, my friend, where he says, I will drive for you for 1 or 2 years, but you're going to keep me on for 4 or 5 years, and I'm going to be your Alain Prost, I'm going to be your Jenson Button, I'm going to be with your team, and then, Toto Wolff might come over because now he owns a part of Aston Martin, and, possibly there's just
a long-term kind of
exactly. The guy's going to make, listen, it's... No matter how much money you make, it seems like people like to have a steady check. You know what I mean? We see that in all kinds of stuff. In football, guys are, Michael Strahan's making more money. He's got 5 shows on TV, and he was a phenomenal football player, Hall of Famer. But if I'm correct, but he's still making more money now than he's ever making. So I just think Vettel wants to stay around the sport. If he ties into Aston Martin, they're new, they have money, and Stroll. I don't disagree with Eddie Jordan, but I've always liked Stroll as a driver. And when you had my good friend Tommy Burns in here, he said the same thing. as a
Yeah,
driving.
he likes Stroll too.
I do.
Man. I'm not a fan.
I'm telling you. Well, listen, he's been on the podium several times. He was close to winning a race the other day.
He couldn't get around Ricardo. He couldn't defend against Ricardo. There's times where he's just horrible.
Very few people can defend or deal with Ricardo. That guy has a big smile. I'm going to tell you. You ever watch the tapes of him around Monaco? He's insane around Monaco, and he's won Monaco.
I think
that's the kind of guy. If you can drive around Monaco, you own inches of the racetrack. When you can drive like Ricardo does at Monaco, buddy, he owns every inch of that track. Good luck.
I think people forget how young Stroll is.
Of course, he's like 20 years old.
He's the same.
So's Verstappen.
No, okay, but listen,
and his Verstappen is pretty good. Thanks for stopping by.
Verstappen is great. Okay, no, but he's around the same age as Leclerc, as Gasly, right? But he's been in Formula One longer because he basically skipped F2 because daddy's money. All right, and he was able to get into Formula One at Williams. So put him on that same
Sometimes
footing.
the short
if
way
you
isn't going.
compare,
well, he seems to be doing it. Well, he might have a little longer. Not to interrupt you, what you're saying, a little more seasoning time needed because he got in too early. He didn't season enough. I did that in a sense when my little thing. I jumped too fast, maybe, but
right. That's exactly my point because Verstappen needed that time to grow up. Right, he was getting shunted. He was causing shunts all the time, and now Verstappen's considered.
Well, the best
if you
in the
ask
world.
Christian Horner, the best, right, on the grid.
He's probably, I mean, if you put Verstappen in the Mercedes, I'd love to see what would happen. You want to see a great team?
I want to see Leclerc, Verstappen, and Hamilton go at it
all in the same car.
I think Stroll has the speed to get there.
Cars.
He just needs that consistency. And the question is whether Stroll can develop that consistency. We know he has the speed. But, I mean, we'll see.
And look, he's got Vettel to help him.
I'd take Leclerc and Gasly over Stroll any day.
Well, I think you could take Leclerc over Stroll any day, but you don't have him. Ferrari does. Okay? So nice try. But I don't think you can say Gasly was also a little rough. You know, he got kicked around up and down the ladder a little bit, but Gasly came back and proved his worth. And by the way, remember Gasly and Ocon and what was the driver from Albon? They all raced together growing up. And Stroll. You know, those guys have all tire to tire. They're all young champions. They've all won multiple races. Nobody got into Formula One. I know money drives it, but if you can't drive the car, you're not going to sit in Formula One. You know, there's a super license you have to get, and you have to keep within a certain amount of seconds.
Mazepin's in Formula One.
Yeah, and guess what? We haven't seen him drive yet. Why don't you let's see what he might drive the tires off the car. You know what the deal there is.
Fall off my fucking chair.
You know what the deal there is. That has nothing to do with money. I think that whose team is he with?
Haas.
Yeah, they're afraid they're going to kill him. You know, the Russians had to sit down and said, "My friend, you know, let's have some vodka." You know, so my boy, he will be your driver. And grabbing a little booby, he's still your driver, right? By the way, let's go into that because did you guys already talked about that?
We did.
Yeah, I know.
Wow,
I just think that the whole thing was I mean, I was fighting with people on Facebook, and people like, you should be like, what are you gonna do? Is cut off his hands and send him to Siberia? The guy's been racing his whole life. Now, literally, people are like, he should never be involved
to the gulag.
You know what I mean? You know, it's just insane that this kid did one thing. The girl was a friend of his. The girl admitted they were horsing around. The girl posted the video, not him. And the girl said it was a big, it was just so in all fairness, I mean, enough is enough. This isn't, and by the way, I was like, the guy's a young driver. You know how much testosterone there is in a racetrack, in those settings? I mean, if you don't have any testosterone, not saying that Simona De Silva, segue. But I mean, I'm just saying there's a lot. It was ridiculous.
I'm with you. I don't think
I agree with you.
Stop dragging. Listen, if he did something, we elected a president that admittedly.
All right.
I'm not going to get political. I'm saying let the 19-year-old kid who's out partying with his girl, who is his friend for life. It's not like he walked up to a stranger and grabbed. They've been friends forever.
So what I said last time. What I said last time was.
I agree, but I understand.
What I said last time was.
I've had a wilder life than you. To me, it's a normal thing.
I didn't
say I haven't.
Honey, I did not say that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not saying. Go ahead.
All right. I agree. He should not lose his career off this. What I think, though, is the punishment, the repercussions should not have been behind closed doors. Let me see what's going on.
What are you going to do
When
to him?
it doesn't matter. It could be anything.
He's got to kneel on pineapples for 2 hours.
NASCAR loves to put people into sensitivity training. It doesn't matter.
There's nothing wrong with grabbing a girl's boob if it's your friend and you're out drinking and having a good night. It wasn't like he raped her.
Is the problem.
She was okay with it.
No, I don't agree. I don't.
Honey, do not listen to this tape.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
No, I don't think she posted it. I don't think she was okay with it. I can totally see that she was forced into backing that story so that he didn't get into more trouble.
I'm going with what I'm told. I also think OJ killed his wife, but we don't. At this point, he's innocent.
This video is so demonetized. It's not even funny.
Hey, who brought the new guy in?
I'm just. Hey, you're fine. Listen. I will never have somebody come on this show and not be able to express what they believe. I'm perfectly okay with you expressing your opinion.
I don't think the guy should have lost his career. I think it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But and he's in my day, that would have never been.
I made that point on our show.
In your day, there's no social media.
True. Let me tell you what my mechanics used to do. If a girl wanted to come over and see the car, they would take the nose off the car and then to get her to sit in the car like with a dress so that they could, it's like,
I understand. I made that point when we went over this previously. I said that, back in the day, it was a different time. Nowadays, with social media,
and you have the Me Too movement, which I thought was all about me and you too.
And then you got
I didn't realize there was more to it. I'm an old guy. What did I know? Great, it's all about me, and then you guys also. I did not know that this was more involved.
But you got Formula One on this whole unity thing.
Agree.
It doesn't fit the narrative.
And I agree. Let me tell you something. That is a big thing, and I think that was one of the things that Hamilton is negotiating for deep down inside because they want to be, you want your heroes to be clean and be decent. You know, I know as raising 4 kids, I can't expect an athlete to be my kid's hero. My kid's hero should be better than that. But still, when your kid's playing ball, it's only natural. My daughter looked up at Jenny Finch and all the great pitchers, and my son wanted. I remember him at 10 going, "Hey, Dad, when I become a professional baseball player, I'm going to get you a restaurant that you can work in so you can cook because all the sports athletes have their restaurants." That's what they emulate. They're online looking at these guys and looking. When I was growing up, you had baseball cards with the stats on the back. So they are heroes.
Yeah.
And I think you've heard me say this once before, like someone like Jeff Conine, who would never, I worked for his charity, his wife, never be in the news for anything but the most important of things, which is his charity work.
Right.
But this is a young kid, and he's give him a chance.
I understand. Yeah. So you wrote down stuff about Helmut Marko. Hit me with it, broski.
So he's been in the news recently. I think I don't remember who he did an interview with, but he did a few. Basically, he came out and saying that, and when Vettel was thinking about signing for Aston Martin, but after he was fired, before coming to something, Helmut Marko came out and said that he was advising him to take a year off. So following up on that, he then was saying to the press recently that he did advise him to take a year off, and that the reason basically was that Helmut Marko assumed Albon would finish out his contract and would be in the car for 2021. And then 2022, it would be open and Red Bull would be looking. And Helmut Marko wanted Seb Vettel to be available at that time. So it was too early. He was pushing Seb to be patient, take a year off even, be patient so that you are available if Red Bull wants to come calling. That
Tommy
didn't work
Byrne
out
said
that
the same thing about McLaren. When he was talking to Ron Dennis told him, "Hey, I don't think you should sign with Theodore Racing." And he was like, "Well, I mean, I have to sign with somebody.
Right.
Can't take a year off and not do anything." So he signed. Then it
would have been a huge risk, but
right.
Well,
but then what ended up happening was Albon didn't meet what they felt was
and I
good.
Think he was a good driver. That's a shame, but yeah,
I don't think so. I think Perez came available.
If
Perez didn't come available, Perez
right?
But
choice. If Vettel was still available,
it would have been Vettel, not Perez.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
They wanted in. They weren't getting an Albon, which they wanted in either a Perez or a Vettel. In my mind, was the experience. A guy that knows how to get to the winner's circle, and both those guys have.
Right.
And Albon, though, showed great talent. He may not have been. They needed more maturity, and because Vettel doesn't. I mean, because thanks for stopping by, doesn't have as he has a lot of maturity now, but still not the amount that a Perez or Vettel would have.
For sure. And again, I'm just sad that Albon's not getting the second chance that Gasly did. Moving on with Helmut Marko, who's been moving his lips a lot. He was sorry. He was talking about the Honda engine, saying that Red Bull and Honda have reached a deal for Red Bull to use the Honda engine in 2021, but that again, it's still up to whether there is an engine freeze that
if they'll be able to make their own.
But it's just ridiculous amounts of money have been put into this current generation of engine. He does believe that that should stop, but he said for Red Bull to continue, that there has to be an engine freeze. Everything stays the same. 2022 on, moving on, and that the current format, the change, the engine reg change, which was scheduled for 2026, needs to be bumped up to 2025. Now, from what I have heard, is they're going to be voting on the engine freeze within the next couple of days, if not today. But Helmut Marko is saying, and quote, "This is not blackmail. If there is no engine freeze, Red Bull will have to reconsider their status in F1 and what they're going to do, because it just costs too much money to continue evolving these current engines." He also believes on that front on engines, he has heard, this is Helmut Marko speaking, he has heard that Ferrari has made a significant engine leap, and he is expecting them to compete for P3 next year.
Wow.
Ferrari?
Yeah.
That's an engine leap. That sounds like they're back where they kind of were, and only a little better.
That's crazy. That's a hell of an engine leap.
I want to say something about,
they go from 6th to 3rd. That'd be a huge engine leap.
Yeah, but they still should be, competing with the top of they should be the top of the game along with the,
You're
but
right.
Here's something I was going to say about kind of self-serving for what he was saying, because if Vettel goes to Aston Martin and then Red Bull has an opening, if they want to buy Vettel out of his contract, it's just going to cost them a freaking fortune. Mm-hmm. So what is he saying? Hey, sit on the sideline. That way, when we have to pay you, it costs us less. First off, you don't have any place to negotiate. What's the best time to negotiate for your job? When you already have a job,
right?
When you're out of work and they go, hey, I know you were making 25 or 30 million. How's 600,000 and access to the hot dog stand? I'm just saying it gives him a lot less marketability if he's not racing. So it's kind of, to me, it seems like a self-serving comment by Helmut.
Makes sense.
Again, you're talking about above my pay grade in a bit, but I think I'm pretty, I think I could be dead on. I mean, it's basic. It's not even got anything to do with Formula One.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to transition. We're going to end this one, and we will catch you back for part 2. We're going to move on with the IndyCar, IMSA, WEC, all that news is coming to you on the next episode, so stay tuned. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.